It's been a long history-making campaign, and now there are two. On November 2nd, Boston voters will choose. Michelle Wu was here a week or so ago. Tonight, I'm joined by the other finalist, Annissa Essaibi. George, Councilor, it's great to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to join you this evening.
Why are you the best person to lead the city for the next 4 years?
Well, there's lots of reasons why I believe I'm the best person to lead the city of Boston. It is about a period of transition for sure. When we think about COVID, the pandemic, and the number of crises we're facing across our city, especially as it relates to the opioid crisis and the challenges at Mass and Cass. And it's also about what's happening in our schools. And I think what uniquely qualifies me for this job are all of my experiences, but certainly the time I've spent in the classroom at East Boston High School.
You know, Councilor, when Marjorie Egan on our radio show asked you a similar question the other day, you included that you were born and raised here. And I followed up and asked you if it was relevant to the voter, should be relevant to the voter, that you were born and raised here. And obviously, Councilor Wu was born in Chicago. Here's what you said to me.
It's relevant to me, and I think it's relevant to a lot of voters, whether or not they're born and raised in the city.
And then in the Globe the next day, your campaign manager said, let me read it, that was no knock on Michelle or anyone not being from here. What were you trying to say?
I was sharing with you and Marjorie my experiences growing up in this city have brought me to this moment. Going to school here, being a young person in this city, getting my sort of feet wet in Boston politics and municipal government during my years in high school at Boston Technical High School. You know, growing up in this city and seeing the tremendous amount of change that has happened in my 47 years. I don't knock anyone for not being born in this city. Both of my parents are immigrants. I'm the daughter of two immigrants to this country and to this city. It certainly wouldn't disqualify them. I'm simply speaking always to my experiences, how they have brought me to this moment. And yes, those experiences are part of my life. And my life, I'm born and raised in this city, and I'm proud of that. There's not something that I don't think should be celebrated, whether it's my time in grammar school or in high school, my first summer job, camp, volunteer experiences. It's all very important and has informed me, has made me the person I am, and has certainly helped me, develop some passions in the space of community building, of being an educator, of raising my family here in the city, spending time at the ball field. It's all relevant, and it's all part of my story and what makes me who I am and who I believe is the best person to lead this city.
The other day, actually it was about 9 or 10 days ago, Michelle Wu was here, and I said, obviously you want people to vote for you, but I asked her if you would be a good mayor should you be elected. Here's what the councilor said.
We've been so lucky as a city to have this incredible candidate field, and for the last 12 plus months now, really seeing what each candidate has brought to the conversation has been incredibly inspiring.
When I asked you the same question the other day, if she'd be a good mayor, you said, if I thought she'd be a good mayor, I wouldn't be running for mayor. Why wouldn't she be a good mayor, Councilor?
Well, Michelle certainly brings some really important experiences to this work, and she has done that as an at-large city councilor alongside me. I believe that my experiences in the classroom, my experiences building a business in this city, my experiences being civically engaged since a very young age and being involved in my neighborhood and in this city qualifies me in a very different way. Campaigning, this work is very hard, long, tiring work, but it's so important. And I look forward to leading this city and certainly hope to have the partnership of my colleagues in government in that work, because this city is so incredibly important. I am very focused on a Boston agenda, and I want to do that work, and that's why I'm running for mayor.
As you obviously know better than most, a lot of black voters in the city were disappointed that none of the 3 black candidates made it into the final. I know you've unveiled an equity, inclusion, and justice agenda, but you also know that virtually every major black leader who has endorsed somebody has endorsed Councilor Wu. What are you offering that those black leaders, in your estimation, are missing, Councilor?
I'm offering to the people of Boston, in particular, the Black community, as well as our communities of color across the city, partnership in this work. I, over the last 6 years, have served as an at-large city councilor. I've been very much engaged in the work of our communities and making sure that I am present at neighborhood meetings, at civic association meetings, at community-based events, and formally and informally talking to our city's residents about their experiences. And certainly the Black experience here in the city of Boston is one that has been challenging. Certainly our Black community has been left out of decisions, out of conversations, and out of the work of leading this city. And I'm hopeful to have the endorsement of every Bostonian come November 2nd. That is what I'm working towards. And it's what I've worked on as an at-large city councilor. It is, incredibly important work. And, it's wonderful to receive any of the endorsements from any individual. But for me, it's about the work of this city and having the endorsement of the people of Boston. And I believe that the people of Boston, and I've had conversations with our city's residents, I knock on their doors, I meet them where they're at every single day. And the feedback I've received, the partnership that I've received and heard from them that they're desiring to have is something that I bring to the table. And I look forward to having that very productive and constructive and action-oriented relationship with every Bostonian, especially our communities of color.
Do you feel you've been given a fair hearing by those Black city leaders who have endorsed Councilor Wu, like, for example, Congresswoman Presley?
I've had some really strong relationships with a number of individuals who have endorsed Michelle. There are certainly some policy differences between my platform and my opponent's platform. I think there's also a different agenda when I think about my platform and my opponent's platform. And I'm very much focused on the work. I am very direct and straightforward in the positions I hold and the work that I think is important to the city of Boston. You've talked to me a number of times, Jim, and know that I'm not about sort of these big, broad brushstrokes. I'm very much about the work of leading this city. It's what I'm prepared to do and what I look forward to do. And on November 3rd, in partnership with my colleagues in government, in partnership with those who have endorsed my opponent, I look forward to doing this work and leading on the issues that are most important here in the city of Boston.
But quickly, have you gotten a fair hearing from those leaders before their endorsements in your estimation?
Some I've had some great and thorough and thoughtful conversations. Others I've had none. And, that's unfortunate, but I don't really have time to waste with those quote unquote hearings. We've got important work to do. And I want to note what that work is. That's around our schools. That's around housing. That's around public health. That's around public safety. It's around all of the work that a mayor needs to be focused on. And I am preparing to do that work in a new capacity as mayor of this city, starting immediately after the election.
Well, let's fly through a couple of those if we can. I know you're a former teacher, I think for 13 years in East Boston. 13, yes, right.
I told you that before?
The other day, the MCAS numbers came out. Everybody knew they were going to be down, obviously, after the pandemic year. In Boston, let me just read grades 3 to 8. 31% of students met or exceeded grade level expectations in English, 20% in math. It was only 35% and 33% respectively, even before the pandemic. Quickly and specifically, what do you do to address those numbers?
We've got to strengthen early literacy across all of our schools and make sure that our kids have access to a high quality experience every day they step foot in our classrooms. It's around grade reconfigurations, high school redesign, investment, real investment in early literacy, working towards fixing our special education department and making sure that we are investing in the work of teaching our kids and supporting them through that experience, that time.
And I would assume virtually every Bostonian watching this show has memorized these painful wealth numbers that we learned from the Federal Reserve and the Boston Globe. $247,000 average white family, $8 the average black family, $3,000 the average Puerto Rican family, $0 the average Dominican family. Again, quickly and specifically, what do you do to address that yawning, painful gap?
Well, there's a few things we do. First, we have to focus on creating opportunities to access that wealth. That's around job creation, workforce development, and making sure that our city's residents have access to those opportunities. It's also about home ownership. Home ownership has to be part of the work that we are focused on here in the city, especially around affordability. We've got to create it. We've got to make sure that it gets into the hands of our city's residents, in particular our Black and Brown communities. And the city needs to do more. And I am committed as mayor to do more around down payment assistance, technical assistance. When you get that first home, how do you hold on to it? How do you have the supports in place to make sure that you are a good homeowner? And so much more in the middle of that, but want to follow your instruction and be brief.
Thank you. Well, then, two more brief things. I want to give you a chance to address briefly a couple of criticisms. There was a critical story in the Globe about your husband's business practices. He's a real estate developer. You've stated pretty clearly how you expect to create distance should you be elected. Quickly, what would you do?
Well, first and foremost, we're bringing on an abuds person to manage any of his portfolio going forward. And my husband has built a successful business well over 30 years of that, long before I started dating him. And I'm proud of the work that he's been able to do. But I understand as mayor that there's got to be very clear, high standards set. My husband will do no new business before the city. I will appoint those boards and the commissions, and it is appropriate to make sure that that is not part of what he's doing. We've also filed with the State Ethics Commission to receive an opinion on their guidance. We're taking it steps further than what they suggest.
One other item, there's been a story starting in the Dorchester Reporter about a contributor to Trump contributing $500,000 to a PAC on your behalf. It should make clear you have absolutely zero control over these PACs by law. What's your response to that, Councilor?
Well, I'm very grateful that you're noting that I have zero control over these PACs. There are very clear lines of separation, no communication, no coordination, no recognition of those PACs. And I've certainly read about a number of PACs being formed in a number of different candidates' names. And, you know, that PAC in particular, the one I believe that you are mentioning, is supported by a local business owner here in the city of Boston who has built a very successful business, hired many employees here in the city of Boston, and is a part of our city's work when we think about economic development. The connection to and the relation with the former president is something that is very disturbing to me. I am the daughter, as I mentioned, of immigrants. One is an Arab Muslim immigrant to this country. I am a woman. I am a former public school teacher. And for me, that connection is incredibly disturbing, and shared that in great detail with the Dorchester Reporter.
In 30 seconds, what's the one thing that's most important about you that you worry with a month to go that voters haven't quite grasped yet, Councilor?
Well, I hope that voters take a look at my website and consider me certainly for a vote on November 2nd. I want to do this work of leading this city. Boston has given me so much, and my lifetime of experience here in the city has proven that. I am a former teacher and I'm a business owner, and I look at the work of leading the city as important to you, the people of Boston. It has to be about a practical, realistic approach to making sure that you can put food on the table, that your kids will go to a high quality school, that we are a safe city and we're responding to the needs of those experiencing mental health, substance use disorder, and mental illness, and everything in between. As mayor, I am dedicated to that work, as well as the basic city services that we need to, make sure that the snow gets plowed in our first snowstorm, and that the trash gets picked up and the lights get turned on. I'm committed to leading this city and doing this work, not just for you, but with you. That's really important for me to share with your listeners and your viewers this evening. And I hope they give me every consideration on November 2nd.
You left out 3 words: teacher, mother, mayor. I don't know if you've heard that.
And I'm also a mother and a teacher, and I look forward to being your mayor.
Councilor, it's good to see you. Good luck on November 2nd. Good luck in the debates. Great to see you.
Thanks, Jim. Great to see you too.